Where not to plant the endangered Florida Torreya tree. Hi, I'm Connie Barlow. Today is March 4th, 2025, and this is episode 39 in the Torreya Guardians video series. I'm going to be talking today, just as an introduction, to some videos that some of which I've already posted in the past, but about the topic of where not to plant Florida Torreya tree, an endangered species. Now, that may seem a little bit trivial, but it certainly is not. There is so much to learn about any biological form in an ecological system. And what I've discovered is that when it comes to the southern states, we already have enough evidence that planting in uplands, that is where there's no downhill drainage coming on, if you're in a drought, there's no seepage that's going to continue, you are in a flat upland area. That is not a place to plant Florida Torreya in any of the southernmost states. What I'll be showing here are two examples of plantings that were made a good while ago. One was made 25 years ago, about 80 miles west of the historical native range in the panhandle of Florida. Now, that historical native range is there only because this tree barely escaped going extinct during the ice ages. I'm speaking from Michigan now. This is my home state. And 20,000 years ago, we were under thick glacial ice here, okay? So all of our beautiful trees, other plant species, had to move south during these times. How far south is a different question. But what we do know is that by the time professional botanists came around to inventory the plants in the eastern United States, this ancient species of a 140 million year old genus of conifer related to yews, a member of the Taxaceae family, this ancient tree had not been able to move back north after hanging out in its what's called a peak glacial refuge or refugium. And that was just on the east side of the Apalachicola River in the panhandle of Florida. Two other species in particular were in the same boat on that. So the point is that yeah, we can experiment in a lot of different places, and we have as Torreya Guardians. I'll show you the map right now. I'm here in Michigan, and yeah, I'm experimenting with some seedlings that I've planted here in southern Michigan, and we've got about 5 other people actively involved in that now at much later levels than I am. I don't have any established seedlings. Our biggest one now, somebody over on the west side of the state has got a couple Florida Torreya trees. Listen to that. Florida Torreya trees here in Michigan, about the same height I am. So our group, Torreya Guardians, when we first got started, the main thing we were doing was getting seeds on our own and then testing them in different places northward and learning about how far north can they live. And incidentally, along the way, we've learned a heck of a lot about what the ideal habitats, the microclimates are within these broad ranges. That's not what this video is about. This one is about going to 2 sites that were established before I got involved in this. The first place I was involved with Florida Torreya was in my 2001 book, The Ghosts of Evolution. And I had a bit of it in here, but it wasn't until Professor Paul S. Martin was my co-author for a paper published in 2004 called Bring Torreya Taxifolia North Now. And that was 2004, so that's 20 years ago. That's still quite a bit of time that I've been working on this. But the 2 sites I'm going to be showing in here got started before our group, Torreya Guardians, got started. And our group got started when that paper was published. So the 2 places, one got started 25 years ago, as opposed to Torreya Guardians 20 years ago. And the other one got started 75 years ago. So here they are. Closest to the historical range, you'll see Shoal Sanctuary. That's about 80 miles west of historical range. But under the old Endangered Species Act, the way it was interpreted, they couldn't score any more wild genetic seeds. In the last 15 years, 20 years actually, they couldn't score any more because it was interpreted as not in historical range, even though it was only 80 miles west, and also had the same kind of steep head ravine there. But anyway, the point is that got started without any help from us, okay? The one further west, just west of the Mississippi in Louisiana, that one is called the Dormon Preserve, Caroline Dormon Preserve. And we Torreya Guardians weren't even aware of it until 2018. So those are the two sites. You see, they're both southern states. And even though they both have plantings in both the flat uplands with a lot of pine around, flat uplands, but also where I've been recommending in the ravines, especially the steep head ravine, if you've got one of those. It's not going to be about those trees. It's going to be about what we've learned from the upland plantings. And so it's just as important to be able to say not just what the ideal habitat conditions are, which we're honing in on for the northern states, southern Appalachians and on northward. But here, I'll be able to show you raw footage of how we can know that you should never plant Florida Torreya in a flat upland that has no higher level drainage slowly coming into it during unexpected drought and even some of the extreme ones that we've been having. Now, there's still a lot of mysteries involved, but this, I think, is really important because I'd like this to serve as an example for other citizens to do, where you don't need any government money, you don't need any non-governmental money, you don't need to have all these kind of statistical things. You just do the kind of natural history that Darwin and his colleagues were doing in the 1800s. That's all we need to be able to do at least this. Where not to plant Florida Torreya. And the other thing that I really want to emphasize here is that what makes both of these sites so important, and important for recording on video, is that you've got people still there who have the history, experienced some of it, and then also passed down through family traditions the history for the 75-year-old site, where they can tell us what's been going on. And we can use that kind of ecological understanding for being able to piece together things that normally published science using high statistics and measurements and squares of random samples and all this kind of stuff will never say. And yet, in my view, anything that's part of a living system, a complex system of life, is embedded in an ecology. It's got an ecology within, it's embedded without. And the more we can hear and see via photographs and video of the kinds of things that might be affecting its well-being and then, of course, its demise, that's crucial to document. And by doing this, it means that you don't have to just listen to my conclusions. I'll have some in there, but you'll be able to see for yourself, make your own interpretations, and maybe you'll want to visit one or both of these sites to get a better understanding yourself. And that's crucial for helping this species. Not just learning where to plant it, but where not to plant it. And finally, because these two sites are just so important for learning things, I'm going to be recommending at the end that these be considered for official designation as experimental populations. That's part of the Endangered Species Act of 1973. And beginning in 2023, the regulations shifted, so instead of having to always cite an experimental population within the historical geographic range, which, as you know, is tiny for Florida Torreya, for the very first time, they can be considered outside of the historical range. And I would argue here, it's not just for new plantings, it's not just for doing these statistically significant mainstream science things, but to go around and visit these historical sites and ideally get the oral history on what's been going on there. It's so important. So let's get started. We'll start with first Shoal Sanctuary, 80 miles west in the panhandle of Florida, and then we'll move way out to Caroline Dormon Nature Preserve in Louisiana. Shoal Sanctuary. It was started by the owners Robert A. Larson and Chris Larson. You can learn more about it at shoalsanctuary.com and also, of course, in the Florida section of our TorreyaGuardians.org website. Now, Shoal Sanctuary is very interesting because it's only 80 miles west of Torreya's historically native range. But given the way the regulations were written, up until 2023, it really wasn't allowable for any plantings of Torreya taxifolia to be regarded as official if they weren't within that tiny historical range. Well, that's no longer a constraint, and so that's part of a big reason why I'm making this video. Now, Shoal Sanctuary, we're only going to be looking at the 4 upland, which they've named, 4 upland plantings of Torreya taxifolia, Florida Torreya, that they did in the year 2001. But I want to make sure that you're also aware that the upland is not the greatest territory for planting Torreya. But what we've learned there is, of course, you have to irrigate it there. But we've really learned about the importance of liming, and that's what this little video is about. It's mostly going to be drawing from 4 videos that I made of Shoal Sanctuary, the Torreyas there. February 2015, I made a video about the 4 upland trees. Then also I made a video down in the ravines. In fact, this is the one you see pictured here in Torreya 06. That's the deepest, darkest, called Grotto Ravine that they have. And then January 2019, looking over at the right-hand side, this one's mostly about what you see there. We donated seeds later to Shoal Sanctuary. So these little seedling Torreyas were planted from seeds we donated during our visit there in 2015, and then came back and took videos of how they were doing. Now, all of these were down in the ravines. This is a natural habitat for Torreya. It really cannot tolerate too much sun with drought. But that's not what this video is about. This video is strictly about looking at the 4 upland trees in order to understand the importance of liming and irrigation as well. But first, I just want to show a little bit what these ravines look like there, because this is the one that's an actual, formally called a steep head ravine. As we move in closer here, telephoto, you see a little bit of a creek down there off the slope. And then as we go back, you can actually see a little waterfall at the beginning. Fortunately, there's a lot of deciduous trees here, and this one was filmed in February 2015, and the sun coming in here is because most of the overstory is deciduous. So in the cool winter temperatures, very moist, cool habitat, even in the summer it's kept cool because of this steep head ravine. Okay, so let's start with the first of the 4 upland Torreyas. This one is called Totem Torreya, and we're going to look at photos and some videos starting at 2007, again in 2015, 2019, and unfortunately by the time the last photographs were taken by Torreya Guardians volunteers, January 2025, this one was dead. Don't know why exactly. It wasn't exactly reported, but it's still very important for understanding the upland Torreya trees. So we start with Totem Torreya in 2007. And that's me on the left and my husband, Michael Dowd, on the right. The next photographs Chris sent me in May 2009, and then another one spring 2013, because she was so excited to see the pollen sacs producing pollen on the totem Torreya. So let's begin the video portion of this as we move to February 2015. And again, these 4 upland trees were all planted in 2001. So Chris Larson, tell me about this particular Torreya taxifolia.
Yes, this is our Florida Torreya that we named the totem Torreya because of the totem pole right behind you. And we planted it in, I believe, 2001, and it's now 2015. It's a little bit pampered. It has its own irrigation system. Looks like some smilex is growing into it, which we'll cut out of it. And it's got a couple of other ones nearby.
So how is this tree so beautiful and lush? What do you do for it?
We do nothing. We, I shouldn't say that. We eliminate invasives from around it. These guys must go. These are laurel oaks. Laurel oaks will grow very, very fast and crowd out everything around it.
Right. Do you water these in a drought?
It has its own irrigation head.
So how often do you water it?
I've got it set right now. It depends on how dry it is, but it's set right now for twice a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so it never has to worry about anything.
No.
Do you know if it's a male or female?
I sent you something fluffy was growing on it, and you identified it, and I forget whether you said it was a boy or a girl.
So it would be a boy. We'll take a little look at it. Yes.
See, I'm seeing little buds of some sort coming out right here. Is that maybe where it's? See right
Let's
there?
see. Let me get a close-up.
Here's a better one.
Here.
See? On the underside.
Oh. Let me see it. Okay, hold on.
It's seeding or something.
It's got to get the
It's getting sexy on us here.
Yep, that would be, I'll take a look, but it's probably a male if it's on the underside like that. The females tend to be more angular and at the tip. Boy, but look at this gorgeous foliage here. Talk about these wonderful longleaf pines. I'll get a picture of that. When did you plant them? How old are they?
The longleaf, same time. I think we planted the longleaf in 2000. 14,000 longleaf we introduced here.
Wow.
Trying to get back to the native forest, trying to reintroduce the native forest.
That was February 2015. Now, we'll take a look at Totem Tree in January 2019. All right, so this is your healthiest, this is Totem.
This is our biggest, best Totem Torreya.
And this was one of the plantings 2001, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
This was one we got in a pot, about, a foot tall.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me back up here.
This is one of the ones that has irrigation. It has its own sprinkler head.
Didn't all 4 of them have irrigation?
Yes.
Yeah. My gosh, look how tall that is.
Science, inspiration.
There, look how tall that is. Wow. And that's the Totem Torreya because it's right by the totem sculpture. All right, let's go in close here. I want to see what the lower stem looks like.
It's a United Church.
They work to bridge the gap that a bit between the religions, and they do a brilliant job of it, better than anyone I know.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we've got one stem and a basal together here. And looking south here, we've got one low branch reaching out southward. Golly, this is just amazing.
You want to see the one that died? It's downhill.
Okay, yeah, I remember Lost and Found.
Lost and Found is gone. It's
lost.
Now it's just lost.
Okay, so here's, how tall would we estimate that? Maybe 18 feet?
I go by Roberts. I'd say, Robert, I'd say 12 maybe 14 feet.
14 feet,
Because
okay.
Robert is 6 feet, and I go by how many Roberts I could lay in on them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's see. My gosh, there are a lot of male structures here.
I wonder
Now, what sometimes the males do is sometimes the males will make a couple branches female.
Oh, really?
Yes. We were just in Louisiana where that happened, but it's an older tree. It's 68 years old.
How tall is it?
As tall as they get, 60 feet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And where is that one at?
North Louisiana.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so incredibly healthy. And this is irrigated, right?
Yeah, it does have its own.
And it's twice a week, no matter what?
I think about that, yeah.
Ooh, I see you've limed it, huh?
Yes, we limed.
Good.
When that one started getting yellow, we limed them.
Oh, you thought this was yellow?
No, that one was yellow, so we limed them all.
Lime them all. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, we don't wait for them all to start.
Right. That was January 2019, Totem Tree. 6 years later, a visit by Torreya Guardians in January 2025 documented that Totem Torreya had died. It had been replaced by a longleaf pine seedling, which is visible at the lower right. And that white stake is possibly the irrigation device, although the longleaf pine certainly wouldn't need it. Now we move to the second of the 4 upland Torreyas at Shoal Sanctuary. This one is called Burn Torreya, and look at all the years that we have videos or photographs for. We'll start with February 2015. Then we'll catch up with the previous years and photos. Then we'll go back to the 2015 video for more details, before moving on to the video made in 2019, and then finishing off with a few photos from January 2025.
This is a burn Torreya. We named it that because it was inadvertently burned during one of our prescribed burns. When they're laying fire, they're looking down, and we had it marked up top, so they didn't notice and they laid fire here. It was completely burned on one side, and there are good pictures of that somewhere.
The fire burned all leaves off the burn Torreya in January 2007. This photo was taken November 2007, just 10 months later. The left side of the tree lost all its branches. The top died too. But notice the lush new growth on the less damaged side. These two photos are April 2008 on the left and 2013 on the right with burn tree. Now, continuing with the video of 2015 with Chris Larson narrating.
All the Torreyas are pampered. They all have their own irrigation heads, and they get watered twice a week ordinarily. If there's a big drought, we might water them more and for a longer duration. So I can crank that up. This guy apparently doesn't have any reproductive structures anywhere, but maybe that's because it was insulted. Maybe it's because it's female. And I noticed a little, someone's making itself at home in here. It looks like a grasshopper has shed its exoskeleton in there.
Now, has this one ever needed liming by you? I know you've used it for the...
We just did it that one time because it had been so insulted after the burn, and that was several years ago. We keep the lime on hand, but I only use it if they look distressed. And when I say distressed, I mean if I see the slightest bit of yellow on any of them.
Yeah.
Then they get some.
Okay. And the road that you're walking on here, this is where, since you're managing the property for longleaf pine, and again, right up above here, we got a couple young longleaf pines. So this is why the crew did not know not to set fire alongside here.
This is Rhythm Road, so it's right at the corner of Rhythm Road and Totem Circle.
Okay.
We keep close track of them with our Toro Flora. We have different tours, and our Toro Flora, we keep them highlighted.
Okay, thanks.
So we've just finished the January 2015 video. 2 months later, it's March 2015, and let's see what happens then. This is a controlled burn of the longleaf pine forest near the burn tree. This time, the Torreya is fully protected. 4 years later, let's see burn Torreya in January 2019. This is our first chance to see why liming is so important for Torreyas planted in the sandy soils of the upland forest.
It was much more yellow than this. We gave it some lime. I think it wants some more lime.
Yes.
This is the one that was burned twice by the fire department when we did prescribed burns, and now they're very protective of it. It hasn't burned in several years.
That's great.
And the side that burned was the side on the left, which is actually the biggest growth now, right?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Huh.
Unfortunately, I didn't look at the base of the tree. It probably had a basal sprout that had zoomed up to replace the original stem that had lost its capacity to resume apical growth. But that's okay, because this video is focused on how important it may be to periodically add agricultural lime to upland Torreya trees.
And you can see where we just put the lime down.
Yep, that was great.
Good.
I think it might want some more, because it's, I don't know, maybe I'm just being impatient.
But how you don't line them every year or
No.
every 2 years, just
No.
when they need it.
When they look like they're wanting something.
Right, right. This is great. So how many times have you limed it? How many times has it yellowed enough for you to lime?
Once, right now.
This is this is the first time.
Yeah. The other one, remember the one
Oh,
year
yeah,
you came,
that-
and we put lime on all of them when you were here.
Yeah.
Whatever year that was, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years
Yeah.
ago.
So that was the last time. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the first time it's gotten that, like, jaundice look.
Yeah.
So that's where this 2019 video segment ends. Fortunately, we do have a January 2025 set of photos of burn tree, taken by Torreya Guardians, Joseph Gweet, and Clint Bancroft. That's Chris Larson, of course. And then there's 2 photos of Joseph Gweet with the burn tree, and a close-up of a vibrant 3-foot-tall basil. Now let's study the third upland Torreya. This is the lost and found tree.
So this is lost and found Torreya. We had completely, well, we hadn't forgotten about it, but we had assumed it was dead because we had had so many, it was completely overgrown in here. So when we found it, we were very pleased, and the reason we found it was because the property got hit by lightning and our irrigation system was badly damaged, and we heard the spraying in here. And so we had to find our way back in, clearing things as we came, and then we realized that we had put a head all the way down to this Torreya. So it's been watered all along, even though we didn't know it was here and it was getting crowded out. You see how much shorter it is than the other ones. And we did come out, and once we realized it was here, we've been gradually clearing more and more things away from it so it has more light. Tiny guy. I'm not seeing any reproductive structures anywhere, but it sure looks happy and healthy, and it's a nice dark green. Those are longleaf.
Longleaf cone. Right, there they are. Okay. And this section is never burned.
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, really?
All burned.
Oh,
We're having a burn this next month, the end of next month.
really?
Yeah.
How does this southern magnolias do in the burn?
We mark them with ribbon, and the firefighters pretend they're dwellings and try to keep the fire.
Oh, sweet.
Watch the step here.
Okay.
And here's what's left of lost and found.
Oh, okay, so it never got more than 6 feet tall. How long has it been dead?
Well, my mom, you know, we were completely distracted. My mom required 24/7 care for the last 2 years. So we didn't see anything up here for that long. So I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know if it first started to yellow and then went out.
No, we seldom got up here because, you know, she just required constant care.
Right. Okay, well, I'm going to turn off the video and do a bit of an autopsy here.
Okay.
Yeah, we just found there's a rodent hole that goes back through there, and that root, I just exposed it, the bark has been stripped off it. We'll do a little bit more looking at it. But this looks like it was a rodent destruction. What amazes me is that a rodent could kill it when it's this old. That's scary.
It is.
And because it's watered, this was not the home for a rodent because it's wet all the time. So we're going to look a little bit more and see what happened here. We poked and prodded around there. My hypothesis, because again, it's been debarked in there, not on the high stems, but on that lower one there, and it's just all full of obvious tunnel. My sense is that the probability is that since this is always watered twice a week, it probably has all its roots pretty shallow, and so there's nothing deep enough that could have escaped a vole that was just looking around for things to eat. So anyway, there you have it.
Gazebo Torreya is the fourth and final upland tree at Shoal Sanctuary. We'll start with photos from 2007, then a photo that Chris sent me in 2013. The remainder will be 2 videos, one that I filmed in February 2015 and then in January 2019, just like the other 3 trees. We'll be ending with several photographs taken in January 2025 by our 2 Torreya Guardians visiting there. To begin, this was Gazebo Tree in 2007. Which was also my first visit to Shoal Sanctuary. You can see the yellowing on the leaves here. Fortunately, I had already learned from Ron Dieterman during my visit to Atlanta Botanical Garden that Torreyas benefit from putting agricultural lime at their base periodically. So I suggested that to Chris during this visit, and she did. 6 years later, the tree was doing well. She sent me this 2013 photo, and here you can see how Gazebo Tree got its name. Now we'll turn to video that I recorded in February 2015.
Okay, here is our fourth and final little Torreya. This one doesn't seem to be doing as well as the others, but it still looks hardy, but I'm seeing a little bit of yellow on it. This one is Gazebo Torreya, the gazebo. And I'm seeing, besides the yellow, I'm seeing a little bit of lichen growing in some of the joints, which I don't like to see. It does get watered, but as Connie pointed out, it's got some things growing near it that are drought hardy, so maybe it's not getting enough water, I'm not sure. But we will put some lime on it, agricultural lime, and see if that helps it feel any better.
So what's remarkable here, Chris, is that all 4 of your Tories, this one in particular, I mean, I'll show the picture of what it looked like when I first saw it, and it really needed help, and you got lime on it, and it started to recover. But your Tories are all in gorgeous shape.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Now this one doesn't have reproductive structures either,
No,
so it was
just the totem Torreya showing reproductive structure. This one's going to be in the shade of a sycamore as the sycamore grows, so it'll...
Actually, the sycamore's on the north side, so it won't be a problem.
You're right.
All right.
It's got a holly over here for company.
What we found on the ones that haven't been tended, you know, on people's property, is that, golly, there's been 3 that I've seen that are large, and they have southern magnolias on their south-facing side. And so during the heat and worst of the summer, they're not getting the sun. They get the east sun in the morning and the west sun at sunset, but they don't have to suffer.
Well, I don't think that gazebo's tall enough to help, but we do have live oaks, big live oaks back there that might be helping with that.
Yeah. Well, good job. This looks really, really awesome.
The last video at Shoal for Gazebo Torreya was recorded in January 2019, and that was my last visit there.
Okay, here's an interesting where we've got, this is, what's this one at the gazebo called?
This is the gazebo Torreya.
Oh, gazebo Torreya, and this one has an absolute perfect leader type growing out a long way from the trunk. It's obviously not going to turn into another big stem, but this is how they fill in. This one here, again, it's watered twice a week, and it's got some yellowing on it. You see a little bit of yellow, so they're putting on lime onto it now. So it doesn't make any sense. There's absolutely, I'm going to do a full up thing here, full vertical. Look at, there's nothing up above it. So this Torrey may be 11 feet tall, perfect little conifer shape here, just perfect. It had been struggling before they limed it. The first time, here, this is a good place to see it. Oh, there is a bit of a deciduous there, but that's on the north side. Anyway, it doesn't make sense for this Torrey to put much energy into growing tall when it can just fill out. It already is very lush, but that's what those kind of apical growths coming out of near the ends of branches are, is just a way to fill in with leaf structure without bothering to grow any taller. We did find definitely some male reproductive organs on here. We looked pretty closely, did not see any females. All right, I'm standing, this is a south-facing branch here, and like I said, there are some male reproductive structures here, but look at these. All 3 branchlets have some, and this one even has one right out at the end. Very interesting. All right, thanks, Michael. Very healthy look. Yep, I'm sure with the lime, they'll be taking care of whatever the problem is here.
Finishing off are several photos taken in January 2025 by Clint Bancroft, who is pictured in this first photo, and then Joseph Gweet at another angle to see the entire tree. A close-up of the tremendously healthy leaves and pollen buds. And that's our end for Shoal Sanctuary and the 4 upland Torreya trees. The final set of upland Torreya plantings we'll look at is a place I video documented in November 2018. That was just 2 months before my final visit to Shoal Sanctuary in 2019. The site is the Caroline Dormon Nature Preserve, also known as Briarwood Nature Preserve. It's in northern Louisiana. This was such an important site to visit, notably for its largest Torreya tree in a downslope location, This tree had actually produced seeds and with the additional attraction of nearby seedlings. If you want to learn about that tree, do watch on YouTube episode 30B, Florida Torreya in Louisiana, Mature Grove with Seedlings. You can find the link in the YouTube caption here below. But it will be the first part of that Louisiana video documentation that I use excerpts from here. That's episode 30A, and the excerpts I'll be using pertain to the two same-age upland Torreyas, where we will learn how yellowing of the leaves preceded the death of the one that was struggling amidst the pines. It was Gary Landry who in early 2018 alerted Torreya Guardians to the existence of a mature horticultural planting of Torreya taxifolia in the north-central part of Louisiana. As with the mature horticultural plantings in North Carolina, this Louisiana site also produced seeds and established seedlings all on its own. Here we could learn crucial information about the natural history and habits of this ancient yew-like tree. Information that could help us do an even better job in siting outplantings of Torreya to cope with all the Holocene warming to date and to anticipate the climate changes to come. This is the Caroline Dormon Nature Preserve, which was known as Briarwood Preserve in previous generations. It was Caroline Dormon who ventured to the Apalachicola area of North Florida to acquire specimens of Torreya, which she planted on her family's land circa 1950. 68 years later, two Torreya Guardians, Clint Bancroft of Tennessee and myself, Connie Barlow, met up with two members of the Johnson family, stewards of the Caroline Dormon Nature Preserve. Longtime neighbors of the Dormon family, the Johnson family has been stewarding the preserve since Miss Caroline died in 1971. Here you see the second and third generation Johnson stewards, Rick and his son David. Richard Johnson Sr., now 90 years old, was the first steward of the preserve. Fortunately, second generation, Rick Johnson, also got a chance to be guided through the woods by Miss Caroline herself while he was still a child. My husband, Michael Dowd, took the group photo. You'll see him assisting this site visit later. So let's get started. Rick Johnson leads this tour and offers the basic history to begin with.
Okay, you've got Caroline Dormon, 1888 to 1971, naturalist, horticulturist, author, artist, and driving force for the creation of Coxsackie National Forest. She worked a lot with hybridizing of the Louisiana iris and getting them recognized. People didn't realize how well they would do out of their southern Louisiana habitat until she brought them up here. Well, what we have here, this is one of the three original Torreyas that Caroline Dormon collected when she made her trip down to Florida, down to Apalachicola. She collected them from a farmer's field down there and brought them back and set out the cuttings here on the preserve. And this is one of the two remaining of that collection that she had.
So how old is this tree?
This tree would date back to around 1950, 51, somewhere along in there is when she did the collection. We don't have an exact date, or at least I've not been able to find an exact date when she did her collection.
And how has it been managed around here? Because this has got a tree form, and up here you've got some pine. Has it always had a lot of sun? Did it have more sun when it was young?
It may have had, it would have had a little bit more sun when it was younger. These oaks and pines have grown up around it. But as far as being managed, it's been managed by leaving it alone.
Yeah. Now what happened? What's that tree that's fallen behind it there?
That is a big red oak that came down in a windstorm this past year. It got heart rot, and the wind got it, whipped it around, and knocked it down. Thank goodness it went the way it went, and not over this way.
So tell me what the species of trees are around here.
Okay, we have the loblolly pine. We have witch hazel, some small beech. Let's see, there's a black hickory,
Is that a tulip trees there, Liriodendron?
there's some back a little bit further back over by the visitor center. We have the American osmanthus.
American osmanthus, is that a tree?
Yes, it will form a tree, and I'll show you one of the biggest ones that on the property. There's a small one right there. It's about probably 4 inches. There's the American holly.
Oh, you sure?
And then black gum.
All right.
And then white oak. And that's pretty much the tree species that you're finding around here.
Does anything like to grow under this tree, or does it pretty much just shade everything out?
It shades everything out.
Look at that cute little basil growing there. You never cut away the basils, do you?
No. We cut nothing.
Good. The wisdom that we have thus far is that if you start out as a cutting, you'll never grow into a tree. You'll grow into a giant shrub with multi-stems. Now, is this the one that started out, it is male and then put on some female branches?
No, this is not it. That one's even bigger.
Okay, does this one put out male?
It does put on male. We've seen lots and lots of flowers on it, the male flower.
Are they mostly high up?
No, I've had them all the way right down here on these little ground limbs right here.
Really?
Yeah. Usually we see them on this one. I've seen them just about every year, so I see them around April.
Look at this beautiful bark.
Oh no.
Wow. Kind of looks a little bit like a hemlock, but in terms of the bark, but a little lighter brown. And then let's look up here. Oh, whoa. Oh, look at that green. Wow. Oh.
And then over here is the one that soiled up and died on us right here.
Ooh, one that you mean that she had planted.
Yes, this is one of the ones she planted, and that's the one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So it, all of a sudden in the fall of the year, like I said, it had that super wet spring, the hard drought. The next spring was super wet. That was when Harvey came through, or the year Harvey came through, I guess. So the ground was just stayed soaked, and between extreme wet and extreme dry. And when we would hit the dry periods, we would get out here and water them, obviously.
So it was right after Harvey hit?
It was actually, it had started yellowing off before Harvey, because Harvey came in Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
And
now the thing when you say too wet, this is really sandy soil here, right?
It is sandy soil.
Okay.
And it drains very, very well.
Yeah.
We never got a break.
I mean, if these pines can survive, Torrey can definitely survive.
Oh.
So something else must be going on here.
I see where the sapsuckers and the
Yeah, now this is interesting.
This one right
The
there.
sapsuckers are doing vertical on here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to sapsuckers doing like horizontal. And then here's a little fungus coming out from some of the sapsucker places.
Yeah, that would have, because you can see it where it's collected at instead of being like here on like the edge of the bark. It's here like in the little crevices and starting in those holes where the water
Yeah,
is able
so
to
that's
seep
a
in.
post-mortem fungus.
So.
Yeah. Because it would still be really interesting to find out, why did this suddenly die?
Yeah, that one is a mystery. So
Yeah.
and because I mean, this one and that one were both getting the same water treatments during the drought, but that one was fine and this one sold up.
Okay, so during the drought, and I see that one, it's got the black hose by it. How did you get water here?
There are 2 irrigation ponds that we have. One where Chris lives, that's the old Johnson Pond. And then there's another one over by Grandpappy. It's Wings Rest Pond, and there's 2 pumps. There's 1 pump on each one, and we're actually able to pump water through the entire irrigation system using those.
Wow. And did you notice, did it start dying at the top, or dying at the tips of the branches?
It was like the tips at the ends.
The ends, and they just started to yellow?
Yeah, and they just turned like a golden yellow, and it just kind of worked its way in. So,
because I don't see anything here that resembles the kind of cankers that Florida has. Because those are really obvious sort of swellings.
yeah, I mean, otherwise, up until that point, it was incredibly healthy looking. So, and then it just succumbed to it, to whatever happened to it. So, the only thing we can guess is just the extreme weather differences during the time period that it happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's a mystery. It's definitely a mystery. Okay, so what are the guesses? Here we are standing here. What are the guesses as to why? Obviously, this one is not as happy as that one. So could it be that she planted, that it doesn't like being by all these pines? Now, these pines are much younger than it, right?
No, these pines are older. They're substantially older.
This is a magnolia something here.
That is the Magnolia macrophylla, the big leaf magnolia.
And did she plant that too?
That would have been planted by a bird, most likely. The ones that she has planted have up and died, but they've got hundreds of seedlings all over the property now.
Is this a Yaupon holly? What is this?
Yaupon,
Okay, so you don't have any privet invasion, do you?
We do have privet around. We try to keep it as much of it out of here as we can. Even the American holly, we've had to pull them up, and the funny thing is Miss Carey wrote a poem called The Ode to the Holly, lamenting the fact that people were cutting holly limbs for their berries for Christmas decorations, and I'm over here pulling them up to get them out of the ground because they're taking over spots. It's like,
yeah.
She would have loved to have seen that day, though. I mean, to have a time when the holly was in abundance. So.
Yeah. Now this is a big southern magnolia here. Did she plant that, or does that plant itself?
Probably self-planted.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. They're quite native to the area, so my guess is that one probably just came up on its own. The mountain laurel that's right there, that nice sized mountain laurel right here, is she planted those. Now, all the mountain laurels, all the big mountain laurels on the property were planted by Miss Carey. They're found generally. Always found natively east of the Mississippi because, there's just no way for the seed to get across that river. And she planted that one, and this would have been planted probably around 1924. Yeah, around 24, 25.
It looks old.
That was kind of the peak of her plant collecting and traveling.
Now, what is this again right here?
That's the Florida anise.
Oh,
right here.
Hey.
That's that anise.
And what kind of, it doesn't make a berry, it makes something else.
It makes, it makes that seed pod. It looks just like the anise spice.
Yeah. Oh gosh, look at those.
Do not confuse with spice because all parts of this one are poisonous.
Poisonous. This is quite a thicket of them here. So look at this evergreen understory. If we look right here, you got these giant pines. And then you've got this fully evergreen understory that she planted.
Yeah, that would be from stuff she planted. Those are the anise and American osmanthus that are out there. And we'll grab the cart and come back down here a little bit, and I'll show you that osmanthus tree that we have.
Okay, who are these two trees here?
The one on the left is the American osmanthus, and the one to the right is the sweet bay. I was looking to see. You don't see the.
And is the sweet bay native here?
Yes, sweet bays are native, and that one would have come up of its own volition.
But she planted the American osmanthus.
I would guess she probably planted that American osmanthus.
And both are evergreen.
Yes.
And then there's the pines back behind us there. Okay, wow.
So that's the end of the upland tour in November 2018 of the 2 Torreyas growing on flat upland at the Caroline Dormon Nature Preserve in Louisiana. The second part, downslope of the largest tree with its own seedlings nearby, is well worth watching. But this video is focused on a yellowing that seems to be a regular occurrence in upland plantings. And remember, upland plantings have no downslope seepage to help them during a drought. That's why something that happened at the Louisiana Preserve the summer of 2023 needs to be mentioned. Bailey Q. Brissett, she's the new curator there, reports that during summer 2023, we experienced a horrific drought. No rain for 55 days. Just before this drought began, one Torreya in the upland was showing signs of stress. The leaves started turning yellow, then brown, and it died pretty rapidly. The year after you were here, a tornado had exposed it to full sunlight. Oddly, quite a few trees have died in that spot. All the dogwoods, sassafras, white oaks, and a beech. So we come to the end of this video. It's pretty clear that Torreya taxifolia, planted in an upland habitat in the southern states, will be stressed during a drought, and supplemental water will be essential. But is there something else going on? If there are pines nearby, does that acidify the soil to the point that agricultural lime must be applied to forestall death? And is that enough going into the future? The second question is this. Why do the Torreyas in its historical range in Torreya State Park brown out and show cankers midway along stems, rather than the bright yellowing at the leaf tips that we've seen here in both Shoal Sanctuary and also in the Dormon Preserve? Clearly, there is much we have learned and can continue to learn from these two sites. It would be worthy indeed to have both Shoal Sanctuary in Florida and Caroline Dormon Preserve in Louisiana officially become designated as experimental populations. Let's keep studying these sites. And let's have the 2 botanical gardens in Georgia donate seeds from their ex situ plantings in North Georgia so that the ongoing experiments can add more Torreyas to their downslope and ravine zones. We know very well now that upland plantings absolutely require irrigation. There's really no point in doing that anymore. But the majestic downslope Torrey tree at Dormon Preserve is still healthy, as are its nearby offspring. Additional seeds planted there will prevent inbreeding problems in the next generations. There is so much more to learn. May the forest be with you.